Parking lot freakout. Fine, find a new lot. I'm not a morning person, not naturally. But I am a creature of habit, meticulously so. Every morning is a carefully orchestrated ballet of alarm clocks plural, don't judge, coffee brewing, a specific news podcast listened to while getting ready, and a precisely timed departure to ensure I arrive at the office no later than 8:15 a.m. This routine, borderline obsessive, is what keeps me sane. And a key part of it, the linchpin that held the entire performance together, was my assigned parking spot in the underground garage at work. I paid extra for that little slice of concrete paradise. Spot 34, close to the elevator, far from the dripping pipes and the perpetually damp corner. Then Brenda happened. Brenda. Imagine a human foghorn wearing leopard print and perpetually running late. She worked in accounting, or so I gathered from the shrill phone conversations that occasionally pierced the office quiet. Her arrival was always announced by a slamming car door, a volley of loud complaints about traffic, and a general aura of chaos. It started subtly. One Tuesday morning, I pulled into the garage, anticipation bubbling for my smooth transition to the workday, only to find a silver SUV taking up residence in spot 34. My spot. My sacred, dearly paid for spot. A wave of heat flushed my face. I circled the garage, adrenaline pumping, finally squeezing into a visitor space near the entrance. I left a note, a carefully worded piece of passive-aggressive politeness. Hi, just wanted to let you know this is a reserved spot. Please be mindful in the future, thanks. I even added a smiley face, a concession to my own internal rage. The next day, same thing. The silver SUV, gleaming smugly in my spot. The note was gone, probably crumpled up in a leopard print handbag somewhere. I parked in another visitor spot, my blood pressure steadily climbing. Another note, slightly less polite this time. This became a pattern. Brenda, brazenly ignoring my notes, continued to usurp my parking spot. I reported it to Mr. Thompson, our office manager, a man whose defining characteristic was his aversion to confrontation. He mumbled something about looking into it and suggested I just park somewhere else for today. Somewhere else? Was he serious? Did he not understand the delicate ecosystem of my morning routine? My anxiety spiked. Every morning became a gamble. Would Brenda be there? Would I have to circle the garage like a vulture, scavenging for a spot? The stress was impacting my work. I was late for meetings, distracted, and generally unpleasant to be around. Mark, my friendly coworker, noticed. You okay, Sarah? You seem tense. Brenda, I seethed, is parking in my spot. Every single day, Mark sighed. Maybe just talk to her. Directly, I had tried. I'd left notes. Talking to Brenda directly felt like wading into a swamp of entitlement and perfume. Besides, I considered it a personal failure that it had come to talking. We were adults. I started documenting her violations, photos of the silver SUV in spot 34, meticulously time-stamped. A log of the dates and times I was forced to park elsewhere. I became a parking garage vigilante, fueled by caffeine and righteous indignation. Then came the petty revenge. I started leaving notes that were less polite and more pointed. Is it opposite day? Because you're parked in my spot. Or enjoying my parking spot. I hope the view is worth the impending karmic retribution. I started arriving earlier, sacrificing precious minutes of sleep, just to ensure I could claim my spot before Brenda arrived. It worked for a few days. Then one morning I arrived to find her parked diagonally across my spot and the adjacent one. That was it. The dam broke. I waited, my engine idling, as Brenda sauntered towards her car, a cloud of hairspray and attitude preceding her. Brenda, I said, my voice trembling with suppressed rage. This is my parking spot. I pay for it. You need to stop parking here. She looked at me, a flicker of annoyance in her eyes. Oh, relax, it's just a parking spot. There are plenty of others. Not mine, I countered, my voice rising. I've left you notes. I've talked to Mr. Thompson. You're deliberately ignoring me. Look, she snapped, I'm late. I have important things to do. Just chill out. So do I retorted, my voice echoing in the garage. And part of my important things is being able to park where I pay to park. The argument escalated. Voices were raised, accusations were thrown. Other coworkers, emerging from the elevator, watched with a mixture of amusement and discomfort. It was a spectacle. And I, normally a creature of quiet order, was the star. From then, my actions escalated. The visitor parking vouchers, all gone. I'd hoard them, using them for imaginary visitors, just to ensure Brenda's actual visitors had nowhere to park. Cruel, maybe, satisfying, immensely. I started mimicking the sound of Brenda's car struggling to start in the hallways as she walked by. The automated system that raised and lowered the arms at the entrance had some serious glitches. Sometimes cars would be authorized to pass through, and other times the system would alarm and prevent cars from going through. And coincidentally, Brenda's car was more prone to be alarmed more than others. Mark was increasingly concerned. "Sarah, this is getting out of hand. You're becoming obsessed." "Obsessed," I scoffed. "I'm just defending what's rightfully mine." But deep down, I knew he was right. The parking spot had become a symbol, a proxy for all the times I'd let people walk all over me, all the times I'd swallowed my anger and stayed silent. This wasn't just about a parking spot anymore. It was about control. Then I learned about the time sheets. Janice from HR mentioned it in passing. Brenda's always rushing in, but her time sheets say she arrives right on time. Weird, right? A light bulb flickered on in my brain. Brenda was falsifying her time sheets, claiming to arrive earlier than she actually did, probably to avoid being penalized for her chronic lateness. This was it. This was the leverage I needed. I anonymously reported Brenda's time sheet fraud to Mr. Thompson. I included copies of my meticulously documented parking violations as supporting evidence of her late arrivals. The next day, I heard the commotion. Brenda's voice, shrill and accusatory, echoing from Mr. Thompson's office. I pretended to work, my ears straining to catch every word. "Fabricated Sarah is obsessed with me. She's been harassing me about a parking spot then." The moment of truth. Mr. Thompson's voice, strained but firm. "Brenda, are you denying that you've been parking in Sarah's assigned spot?" A pause. Then, Brenda's voice laced with indignation. "Well, yes, I've parked there a few times. But it's not a big deal. I have more important things to worry about than some silly parking spot. Besides, I deserve a good spot more than she does bingo." The consequences were swift. Mr. Thompson, finally pushed to his limit, suspended Brenda's parking privileges. She would have to park off-site, in a less convenient and more expensive lot. Brenda emerged from Mr. Thompson's office, her face a mask of fury. She spotted me at my desk and stormed over, her leopard print scarf flapping in the wind. "You did this," she shrieked, attracting the attention of the entire office. "You pathetic little rule follower, you ruined me." "I didn't ruin you, Brenda," I said, my voice surprisingly calm. "You ruined yourself. By repeatedly parking in my spot, by falsifying your time sheets, by acting like the rules don't apply to you. You're just jealous," she spat. "You're jealous because I have a life and you're stuck here, obsessing over parking spots." Her words stung, more than I cared to admit. There was a grain of truth in them. Had I become so consumed by routine and order that I'd lost sight of the bigger picture? The argument continued, escalating into a shouting match. Finally, Mr. Thompson called security. Bob, security guard, a kindly man who usually spent his days directing lost visitors, escorted Brenda out of the building. Silence descended on the office. I felt a strange mix of triumph and guilt. I had won. I had reclaimed my parking spot, but at what cost? The next few days were awkward. Brenda was gone, presumably licking her wounds. I parked in my spot, the familiar concrete a small comfort, but the victory felt hollow. Mark found me in the break room, staring into a cup of lukewarm coffee. "Rough day?" he asked gently. "I got my parking spot back," I said, "but I feel awful." "You went too far, Sarah," he said quietly. "You let it consume you." He was right. I had let Brenda's behavior justify my own descent into pettiness. I had become the very thing I despised. I started to reevaluate my meticulously timed morning routine. Maybe it could be a little more flexible. My need for control. Perhaps it was masking a deeper insecurity. A week later, I saw Brenda walking from a distant parking lot, her shoulders slumped, her usual swagger replaced by a weary resignation. I felt a pang of sympathy. She had been wrong, undeniably. But had my response been proportionate? As she passed, I gave her a small, almost imperceptible nod. It wasn't an apology, not exactly. More of an acknowledgement. A recognition of our shared humanity, even in the midst of a parking spot war. Brenda, to my surprise, nodded back. A flicker of understanding, or perhaps just exhaustion in her eyes. I still park in spot 34. It's still a small comfort in my otherwise chaotic life. But now, when I pull in, I try to remember that even the most meticulously planned routines are subject to change, and that sometimes the greatest victories are the ones that teach us something about ourselves, and that some battles, no matter how small, are worth fighting for but not worth losing yourself over.